Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Track to Noise. It is Wednesday, and we are looking back on Town's 3-0 loss to Charlton Athletic last night at Portman Road. To help me look back on last night's game, I am joined by Mr. Rob Binns. Rob, I usually start the podcast saying, Rob, how are you doing? And, have a sort of a happy look to the week, regardless of the results on the weekend. But I think I know how you're doing, but I'll still ask after that game.
Yeah, you could have asked me at a better time. Definitely, I think that. Yeah, I suppose we better get on with it.
Yeah. The episode title today is basically saying the worst game, and I said this to you and the rest of the lads in the podcast chat just before the final whistle blew last night. The worst game in the McKenna era. Is that so far as to say, or are you on that bandwagon as well? I mean, it's we had some pretty bleak games in the Premier League results wise, but we've always said with the caveat of the opposition we were up against. This season has not gone the way we've wanted it so far. Borough on Friday against a decent side. You want to get a result there, but there's no shame losing to a team who's been up there near the top of the table for most of the season already. But that was a game we really need to get 3 points again. We've looked good at home, but that was the worst game of the season so far, wasn't it?
Yeah, you struggle to think of many worse since McKenna took over, really. Particularly the second half. I think one of my mates who was at the game texted me at full time and said that he can't remember a worse 45 minutes since McKenna took over.
Yeah.
Or even, maybe not even 45, a worse sort of 20 minutes to start the half at that point, where the game just completely fell away. And say, like I said, what was it, 7 minutes after half time, then like a couple minutes after that, and another, then like 5 minutes again, 5-10 minutes to go completely from, say, putting the pressure on, looking like we're going to score, to being completely down and out. It was really just rubbish.
Yeah.
All round, really. I mean, 7 changes were made for the team going into it. I'd say, well, there won't be a single one of them. 7 changes none of them are going to be in the team next week or on Saturday even.
Yeah, well, let's get into the 11 from the game. As you said, there's 7 changes. Palmer kept his place in goal. Davis also at left back. O'Shea in the middle of the park. And Q stay in the centre as well. But after that, it was changes galore. So you saw Jacob Greaves come back, Ashley Young make his second start, Nunez again, his second start, McAteer returning on the right, Akpom in the 10 role, Clark on the left, and then Ivan Azon making his start. Ahead of the game, Rob, I think a lot of people were calling for Azon to come in after George Hurst's performance, and George Hurst came on later in the game, and much to like the rest of the squad, didn't really paint himself in that good of a colour. But what were your thoughts? I know it's hard to look at this lineup in a positive way after the result just now, but where was your head at before kickoff seeing that lineup? Was it like, were you welcoming that many changes? I know we had the squad to do it. The commentary team was saying they could almost field 2 different 11s, Ipswich, with that amount of depth. But that amount of changes, is that something you think should happen, considering you still need to field a strong 11 out there, despite the fact on paper it could be a strong one? I don't know.
I feel like I'm starting to think the more I watch that our squad depth is a myth, because the players, it all looks all good on paper, but when these are all players who aren't performing when they're getting a chance, whether it's off the bench or from the start, that just because, say, in theory it should be brilliant squad depth, probably the best in the league of what we got on paper, but in terms of the performances we're seeing, it's nothing like that at all. And that I did lose confidence in the game when you saw the team that was played out. I mean, again, one of my mates texted me as soon as the team come out and went, so that's just, he's gone with the exact same front four that created nothing in 90 minutes against Bristol City. As if we didn't, and he's pulled them all out again. As soon as next time we need to rotate a bit, he's pulled out the exact same 4, and once again we failed to really create any clear-cut chances for the majority of the game. There seems to have been no lessons learned from that Bristol City game, really, where we made loads of changes and just didn't turn up on the day, and we were lucky to get away with a point on that occasion because from the penalty we won and scored. But I'd say tonight we didn't get away with it tonight, but it seems to me when we ring these changes, their performances just drop off a cliff. So Bristol City, rubbish game. Tonight, rubbish game. We went out the cup to Barrow when we made loads of changes. That I've not seen much of this depth we keep talking about when it actually comes to these players getting on the pitch.
looking at the way the game shaped up, and something I've had in my mind most of the season, like in comparison to when we were last in the championship, and it was obviously fantastic. And going into that season, I feel like not obviously many teams expected or knew how to line up against us. Maybe we're a bit more open because we were a newly promoted side and thought we could have a go at this team. And we kind of thought the same. We were able to score so many goals. We're now in this position where we, on paper, and maybe looking at odds and all that sort of stuff that isn't happening on the pitch, are favourites in every game we go into for the most part. So teams are going to sit back like Charlton did, absorb that pressure. It is much harder just to maybe just sort of give a sort of excuse to the team, you could argue, to find a way back in that when you've got pretty much an entire 11 sitting back like Charlton were for the majority of the game. But I think you have to give, obviously we can get into that, but before we do that, just I think give some credit to Charlton because they lined up really, really well, capitalising them on the chances really, really efficiently. Maybe it helped having a change in goalkeeper for Ipswich as well, which we'll touch on in a moment. But yeah, is that maybe a difficult way we're trying to adapt with our style of play this season of just trickling it around and trying to find the back of a net rather than from open play like we've done so well in the past?
Yeah, I think it comes down to team selection again. Really, it does fall on McKenna's head tonight. He hasn't got too much wrong over the years, but you know how Charlton play. So was it fourth best defence in the league, something like that? They let 9 goals in all year. They're set up to sit back, absorb pressure, and try and take their chances in a break. If they have the same model, they used it last year, and they in League One, they're going to set it up again this year. We know that's how Nathan Jones plays, and we lined up with a front four that have they even got a non-penalty goal between the 4 of them?
I can't tell. Oh, Clark got a goal on Derby to seal the third, didn't he?
Oh yeah, of course he did. Yeah. Okay. So even that though, what's that one open play goal between the 4 players we started in the attack? When you know you're against a team who's going to sit back and you're going to have to try and be patient, break them down, and you just got people who don't look like they're going to score. I don't know. There's a lot of decisions I didn't get today. I mean, obviously, I know you got to rotate because when you look at the games on paper we're having this week, it's a tough week. Middlesbrough, Charlton, and West Brom, all teams have started the season very well and look good teams. And this is on paper anyway the weakest out of the 3 in terms of the fixtures. So you think it'd be the one to rotate in, but I don't know. You know the way Charlton are going to play, and it was the one player you look at and think is most likely to sort of break that apart would have been Philogene. I know he needs rest. He can't play 90 minutes every week, especially when we have tough opposition. But he had to play tonight from the start because who else was going to cause that? Would sort of cause the problems that he can do, especially at home. That's the one for me that he I don't know how. I know it might then maybe affect him on the Saturday, but he's the perfect player to try and break down that Charlton backline because you know they're going to sit in and do that, and we didn't stick him on until the game was over.
Yeah, well, do you think we're getting to the argument already? And as we've said, considering again the quality we have on paper, but Philogene's obviously been one of the few bright sparks going forward this season. We maybe looking at our attack, thinking we're on paper a one-man team right now. It's crazy to think, isn't it, in terms of the attack at least? But it does kind of feel that way, doesn't it? Without him on the wing or moving forward, we're really not offering much at all, are we, attacking wise?
No, it's hard to take, isn't it? That all the business that happened over the summer, even like last year as well, all the changing around, and we just don't have goal scorers somehow. Hurst has been well off it this year after the first couple of games. Athon, he throws himself around, but he doesn't seem to get many chances, which isn't ideal for a striker. And then when he does get them, he don't look overly convincing, like the one in the Derby. I know we scored from it in the end, but he should have put that away himself.
Yeah.
And so we've got our two number 10 options are both former top scorers in the Championship who look shocking in front of goal, which pretty much sums up the team as a whole. So we've got two of the last 5 Championship top goal scorers are in our squad, and they've got no goals between them, and they look just so low on confidence every time they get a chance. You just don't back them to score the way they're going at the moment, and so there's no better way to sum it up than that, really.
Yeah, with Akpom there, touched on him slightly. Me and Richard spoke about him on Monday's show as well. He hit a crossbar in the first half, and I felt going into tonight with him starting like this for a lot of players who don't start as much. You really thought this is a chance to kind of seize the opportunity and stuff, and he did hit the crossbar. What's your thoughts on him in the position he's currently playing in, and the signing overall so far? I know it's only 10 games in, but I was quite uninspired when he came onto the books. I'm still none the wiser, to be honest. Where are you at?
Yeah, well, it was underwhelmed is the way to put it, isn't it? That obviously we knew how good he was at Middlesbrough, the level how well he can play in the Championship. I mean, we asked him to do a different sort of role than he had in that Middlesbrough team, but still, you think there'll be enough quality passing on there, plus some years' experience playing abroad in some competitive leagues as well. You think he'd have come on a bit as a player since then, but he almost looks like he's regressed, if anything. But was slightly unlucky, I thought. He caught the ball really well for the one he hit the crossbar. That was slightly unlucky, but it was the one, that header, it was in the second half. He's got to score that. Regardless of, even if you take away the context of, obviously, the record we know he has in front of goal, you give that to O'Shea or Greaves, that header, and I expect it to hit the back of the net. Anyone on the team should be scoring from there. Yeah. And then, what was it, a minute later, we're 1-0 down? And the difference in taking the chances and not, that he was the one who the chances fell to tonight, and he didn't take them. The few opportunities we did create, and he's probably, when you look at that team we had out, he's the one you'd be most confident of putting those chances away, and he didn't do it on either occasion.
Getting into the game, like the first sort of 15 minutes or so, albeit nothing really created that much in terms of like a clear goal score opportunity, but if it was corners galore at the start, had like 4 or 5 corners in the opening stages and looked really well motivated to go forward, but nothing really came of it. And obviously it was 0-0 at the end of the first half. I feel like the big moment, and this could obviously have some ramifications moving forward, was Alex Palmer's injury around the 24th minute mark with Christian Walton coming on. We obviously don't know at time recording, and probably for a few more days at least, the severity of the injury. It did look quite bad. It's a kind of off the ball injury, and those sort of ones, when it's a twinge like that, they're usually like a silent killer, aren't they? First off, just thoughts of losing Palmer. Obviously, it's not been that inspiring because he's only 1 clean sheet this season, but the return of Walton, are we going to maybe bring back Muric after his amazing Serie A spell? Seems to be going quite well. Like it's many positions are quite sketchy at the moment. But that's another one, isn't it? Just thoughts on the whole goalkeeper scenario, Palmer out and Walton Sydney back in for the time being.
I was trying to think about it when Walton come on. Who is the next in line if Palmer's out for a while? Then who sits on the bench now in case Walton gets injured? Because Slicker's on loan, Muric is on loan. Oh, of course, yeah.
Big man Button.
Yeah, I forgot. I knew there was another one somewhere. Yeah, David. Yeah, so we're one suspension or injury away from playing David Button in 2025. So that in itself, the actual idea of Walton playing isn't too much of a concern to me. Really, he's a good enough goalkeeper, especially in the Championship. He gave a good shift every time he played in the Premier League last year. He's good enough to come in and do a job, and there not be a huge drop off. Like it's not like we're, like you said, we've got 1 clean sheet so far. It's not like we're known for defending superbly and not leaking many chances or anything. So he's gonna have a lot to do, as we saw today. That he didn't really do much wrong today, considering he let 3 goals in. But it's more the worry that what happens next, because he is a goalkeeper who has injury problems. And then if Palmer's out, and we've now got a slightly more injury-prone keeper going in goal, then my worry is like you said, we're then looking at David Button in goal if anything happens, which is that's more where I'm concerned at, to what happens if Walton's record continues on the injury front.
We'll look ahead to the second half now, Rob, before we go to the first break. And just, as you said, 2 goals conceded in quick succession there. Obviously, you can't assume you're not going to concede that early, but were you surprised to see just that 2 goals go in that fashion? Obviously, Charlton predominantly were playing on the break most of the game. After 1 went in, did you kind of thought maybe we could immediately snatch one back? Obviously, we're moving forward most of the game, weren't we? But just a real deflating pair of goals to concede so early on and kind of just set the pace for the rest of the second half, didn't it?
Yeah, well, you sort of knew it was, as well as we have played at home recently and scored a few goals, you knew as soon as that second one went in that was it. That was the game. There was very little hope on what we'd seen in the first 55 minutes of the game, that there was going to be any sort of turnaround happened after that went in. But they're just so poor, aren't they? Like, we speak about the defence all the time, but I mean, credit to Carey. He's good skill from him. He's absolutely had O'Shea's pants down there, but it's just so poorly. Like, I don't know. It was a nothing chance, wasn't it? Like, it was a nothing. The ball dropped to them just in front of the halfway line, and then under very minimal pressure, they broke and scored. And then the defending on the second one is, I mean, nobody not tracking the runner in the first place before he goes to get his cross, and then leaving somebody unmarked in the box. The same guy you left unmarked in the first half who somehow skied it from 3 yards. And we got away to let us get away with murder. That twice you've left a prominent centre-half who Charlton aim for from set pieces. Twice you've left him unmarked from close range. And you're not going to say you somehow got away with it the first time, didn't get away with it the second time, and it's just shocking defending all round, pretty much, as we said, after a lot of goals we concede in the last couple of years, not even just this year.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent. I think their opener, at least, was very reminiscent of I think a goal Derby scored against us when they took the lead. Maybe it was 2-1 or 1-0, I'm not sure. That would have been 1 or 2-1, wouldn't it? Earlier in the season, where it's just you expect a bit of open play in our half because we go with dominating possession, and if you lose the ball moving forward, you are going to be subject to a counter attack, which is what that goal was. But it's just the marking and just the assumption as a fan base that your defender and O'Shea in this instance is going to get done one-on-one. And then I think there's aspects for me in the later stages of the game where, from Greaves especially, and he's been guilty of this for, I think, since he's been in the Town shirt, really, some balls played out from the back distribution-wise, trying to play into the middle and out to the outside, just losing it straight away, and groans to the crowd, and that kind of travelled through the rest of the squad as the game continued. He returns for starting 11 tonight. Obviously, we don't really know who that starter next to O'Shea is, with obviously Kipper making way this game. Do you see it being? I mean, we actually have this conversation all the time. But do you see Greaves and O'Shea moving forward, or will Kipper, do you think, come back to play his old side this weekend with O'Shea next to him?
I don't know. Is the honest answer. That I was leaning towards Kipper, and then he had a pretty shocking game against Middlesbrough.
Yeah,
it seemed to be like, just as he was looking like he was going to nail his spot down in that, and then he sort of, it looks like it seems to see as simple as one bad game and you're out at the moment, because Greaves had quite a poor game and was out the next game, and then Kipper has now had a bad game. I mean, maybe it's rotation, and I would assume, just purely on the fact of all the changes made tonight, that all those changes are going to happen again on Saturday, and all these regular players are going to come back in, would be my assumption. Because if not, especially for a centre-back, you don't really, or centre-backs can play 2 games, can play 3 games in a week a lot easier in a lot of other positions on the pitch. So I don't think there's much reason to leave Kipper out.
Yeah.
Maybe, unless you are sort of leaning back towards Greaves, and then maybe he might have his mind changed again. I don't know. It's either or at the moment, but we just need it to be one of them. It needs to not be either or. We need to nail one down and start and consistently play games with the same centre-back pairing, which is something we haven't done for quite a while. Like, it was one of the big bugbears last year, that the defence as a whole, particularly in the middle of the park, that we were changing at least one defender every single week, never getting one back four a chance to get in and play together. But we seem to at least know 3 of our best back 4 now. When we're at full strength, it's just about nailing that 4th one down, and then at least we can, even if it's still not working maybe at times, but at least we have the same 4 players there, and they can actually build a relationship as a line, as a back 4. We go from there, because nobody benefits from just changing the centre half every other game.
No, absolutely not. We'll get on to, I think, it's just a matter. We've never really questioned McKenna since he's been at the club. There are a few question marks, I think, in this game, which we'll get on to in the second half to show as well, and look back at the rest of the game from Tuesday nights. We'll take our first break now, and we'll see you guys in a sec. Welcome back to part 2 of Tractor Noise, looking back at Town's 3-0 defeat to Charlton Athletic at Portman Road on Tuesday. Rob, looking at the substitutions, obviously had a third goal in between some of the subs in the second half. we didn't see the normal 4 changes at once that McKenna likes to in most games, which I was surprised to see considering the result of the scoreline at the time when Hurst and Philogene came on with no two other players, maybe a Gali or something like that coming on as well. But just on the substitutes as a whole, 4 of them really. I think the one that stood out to me as a big surprise was a ghost at Portman Road. It was a return of Ben Johnson. When you saw those 2 come on with Johnson and Taylor, you kind of thought, well, this isn't an attacking substitution at all. This game is very much done, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that was Johnson coming on was just giving Davis a rest before Saturday, wasn't it? That was accepting that that was game over at that point, wasn't it? That was purely the only thing going through the head of McKenna, I imagine, at that point, is just get some of the players off who you're going to want on the pitch on Saturday. So the first couple of changes were attacking, but they were too late because the game had immediately, obviously, the game fell apart. It was in about a 15-minute spell. It's quite hard to react to from the manager point of view, I'd imagine, but the game was already over by the time the first 2 come on. And then, say, Johnson and Taylor coming on for Davis and Kayuste, it's just people getting a rest before Saturday. At the end of the day, and obviously the goalkeeper change was forced in the first half. So,
where do you? Sorry, go on. It's finished.
There's a lot of things I'd question today, which, like you said, is not something we normally do. I don't know. I just didn't. It was something was off tonight all around.
Well, one of the things I've been questioning recently, I've seen some Town fans on the socials as well, and Richard kind of pointed up on Monday's show as well. I think in my opinion, the performances and the positioning of Jens Kayuste, because obviously I think he's obviously a great player. He's one of the few bright sparks of last season. But he's really yet to, considering we're in a league below, and I know obviously it's proving to be a difficult season already. I'm still confident that we can turn this around, but I've yet to. We were so excited when he came back on loan. I think we were so surprised that he came back, considering he's dropping down a league, and there was some top teams around Europe wanting his signature, albeit a loan one this summer. So when he came back, I was absolutely over the moon. I'm still happy he's on the books, but I'm yet to see him really dominate the centre. And you look back at a certain game this season where he's been a key figurehead in those moments. And obviously, that part of the field, he's not necessarily going to be a big flashy, memorable moments from him. But I can't really think of many things he's done this season that have kind of set me alight as a fan and just happy he's still on the books, because it's all been very plain, and I feel like he's used to playing in a Town shirt where it's difficult to play in a Town shirt where he really shouldn't be this season. I don't know, it's just a lot of question marks for him still, which is a shame.
Well, I think he's had a few good performances, to be honest. I think maybe not the whole game. So there's certainly been a few first half performances that come to mind where there has been times I think he's looked almost unplayable in some games, but that hasn't happened very often. And I say it's normally little flurries, and then it's whether we take the opportunities for that. I think overall it probably hasn't been as good as we would have wanted, but I think there's a lot more areas you'd look at before you start looking at that midfield. I mean, tonight, and Bristol, and maybe Bristol City as well. And actually, I don't know. There's a few games in there, but we didn't play with a sitter tonight, which maybe we didn't need to, because the way Charlton are going to play. But that naturally adds a bit of confusion because these two, both players who play tonight, are used to having a sitter, so they can be the one going forward. They had to sort of balance that today. That made things a bit different to normal. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's still not been great. But I think that midfield pairing, when it is Matasuva and Kayuste in there, that's probably the strongest area we've got at the moment. I think there's a lot more places I'd be looking at as problem areas before I start diving into them.
Where's your problem areas then?
Well, we've spoken about a lot of them already. But it's the fact we don't. The main thing is the centre halves. Just we don't know who the starting 2 are, and whoever plays seems to be off the ball a lot of the time. Just dropping poor performances for one clean sheet when we're supposed to have on paper one of the best defences in the league. I mean, the wingers, for me, Philogene aside, again, the 3 behind the striker. I mean, again, we don't know who the best 3 are. It changes all the time. It's Philogene and then two underperformers. Your choices every time. Basically, your strikers, neither of your strikers look convincing in front of goal. And so there's a lot more. I think centre mid's probably up the top of the list of safest
Yeah,
positions, which even then isn't an ideal situation that we're in there, which sort of sums up the season so far. Even though we were all celebrating everything a couple of weeks ago, and then it's amazing how quickly we flip back the other way after a couple of losses, isn't it?
yeah, it really is. I think it's the nature of the beast of football, isn't it? Where when you win one game and you're just over the moon, and then a couple of losses, it's after West Brom this weekend, we could be in absolutely jubilant spirits. I think, as I said, this is in the McKenna era. This is maybe been one of the worst games we've had. I'm not obviously in the group of people who are starting to question him and him as a manager and his position at the club. I don't think you are either. Maybe you are, but I'm certainly seeing a lot of people questioning his tactics and the immediacy to change, not just over a 2 or 3 day period when you will have a few rotations, but even a week's break and then you have a few changes here and there as well after one bad performance. And it does seem kind of like maybe it's a fan driven change as opposed to his own decision. Like, are there any aspects of his sort of tenureship right now that you're questioning? Because obviously this is not a great result for the club, is it?
No, obviously not. Like I say, it's up there with some of the worst of his tenure tonight. But overall, I'm not questioning. I've got questions, but I wouldn't put them in the category of overall McKenna. Tonight, I question him definitely because I think he's got his team selection completely wrong tonight. I think he's come in with the mindset of rotating rather than the mindset of winning the game. Maybe, I mean, he'll obviously the counter argument to that will be he'd have picked the team at the time he thought would win the game. But I think most supporters saw the team sheet come out and knew, and suddenly lost a lot of confidence in the game. I think we went 7 changes is the sort of thing you'd expect for a cup game against a lower league side. Not I know they're in the playoff positions now after this result. They weren't at the time, but a team who'd started the season well in and around where we are in the table to change 7 players. I don't know. For me, that's a mistake. Obviously, it's easy to say that with hindsight when you've seen the game, but I do have serious question marks about that selection tonight and some of the players have come in. But I think most of my overarching questions aren't what happened. Isn't what's happening on the pitch. It's the things that have been going on off it over the summer in the transfer window. A lot of the transfer window didn't make sense to me. A lot of the things that happened, the general sort of, I don't know, the feel good factor seems to have disappeared quite significantly over the course of the last year. Obviously, getting beat every week in the Premier League doesn't help, but I think there's a lot more I'd question off the pitch before I start really going into McKenna, because I do think some of his options he's quite limited, because the squad, like I say, everyone keeps going on about how good the squad is, and it is on paper, but when you watch some of these people play, you do seriously realise a drop off when people play. I mean, like some of these, that the one I question the most, again, just to say about the summer, is McAteer. Like, I know he's young. There's plenty. We're early in the season. He's early in his career. Plenty of time to turn around, but you can't tell. Like, from what I've seen of him, of what I've done so far, why did we need to go and spend 12 million quid on him? And this when you send an Ogbene out on loan. Like, I know he had nearly a whole year out. He wasn't match fit, but for the role the bit part role McAteer's played, where he doesn't seem to do much, could a half fit Ogbene not have done the exact same thing? And you have £12 million to go and spend somewhere else. Well, no, they're the sort of things I'd question before I get to McKenna's tactics and things like that for now.
Yeah, I think you could look around various areas of the pitch and have that sort of mindset, with the number 10 role being just, you may as well not have someone playing in that position right now with Akpom and Schmodix really providing nothing, and then you see Chaplin out back at Portsmouth, and albeit, maybe not be setting the league alight, but still picking some decent performances there. And the few games he had for us this season, it was a drastic improvement in that area of the field whenever he came on. And then maybe you look at, obviously, defensive, we can't really look so much, but Burgess and Wolford both leaving this summer, and 2 guys in the middle who last season weren't that assured. And then Kipre, who had a good game here or there, but the jury's still out on a player like that. There are obviously areas of the pitch that I think have, I feel like we know with Furlong, we now have a right back who we can trust, and to an extent we know we've got a starting right back. I don't even think even in the promotion season we had a right back as nailed on as that, in my opinion, with a few maybe like Twanzebe and Harry Clark, and then Burns sometimes playing as well. It's always a bit of a who's going to play their position. So it's good to have some areas of the pitch that are solidified, but it's just, I think with the amount of players that came in, I feel it's you don't. I feel successful teams never have this issue. It's always good to have quality on and off the bench when they are providing quality, that is. But not knowing who your best 11 is, which we had last season, which is why I think one of the reasons why it was so difficult. You have that again this season, in a season which, on paper is supposed to be glorious and promotion and all that sort of stuff. And it's an issue that's carried over, and it's an issue that's going to always affect you, isn't it? Not knowing your best 11. Obviously, changes are going to happen on a midweek game, but I think to this extent shows that we really don't know who the stars are and who can lead the line and get us to goals. And it just seems a bit all over the place. I mean, even though Saturday's coming up and you'd like to think you can almost nail on the 11 this weekend, you really can't, can you? Because it's so up in the air right now, especially after tonight.
Well, look, we know what the big problem is, don't we? It's like we're saying, it's the top end of the pitch to scoring goals.
Yeah,
only six different players have scored a goal for us this year, and 3 of them are centre halves. That's so.
Greaves,
O'Shea, Greaves, and Kipre all have 1 each. And then you've got Hurst and Clark who've scored a couple of penalties each in amongst their goals as well. And then you've got Philogene out on his own. But 6 different players. How many games have we played?
10.
10 games in, 11 with a cup game, and 6 different players have scored a goal.
Wow.
Yeah. And then like you said, and then 3 of them are on 1, and they're all centre backs. 3 attacking players have scored a goal 10 games into the season when we basically overhauled the whole attack in the summer. What do you do at that point? I mean, there's only so much, like I say, before you look at questioning McKenna, because we've overhauled the whole attack and we've signed people that don't score goals. It's still time to turn around. It sounds like we're having a crisis meeting. We're 10 games into the season, and like you said, we'll beat West Brom on Saturday. We'll come on here on Sunday and be all in a good mood again and counting the points gap to the playoffs and everything again, won't we? It's reactive. Of course it is, especially when you'll jump straight on directly after the game like we have today. That we haven't had time to sort of think it back over. We're just going straight in with the raw response. It seems reactive. Are we jumping the gun? Probably. I mean, hopefully is the other thing there as well, that we want to look back on this and think what a stupid podcast this was and why are we moaning about everything. I want that as soon as Sunday. I want to go beat West Brom and look back and go, what are we worried about? But I don't know. It feels like a real down point today, which, like I said, we got a lot of games like this in the Premier League, but the results like this hasn't stung for quite a while.
No. Looking, as you say, with 10 games there, and I've coined this question to Rich because he posed it at the start of the season, because also we had quite a slow start with the 2 draws and then the defeat to Preston. He said, after 10 games, we'll sort of know where this team is at a bit more. It's been 10 games now. I still feel like we don't know where this team is at, considering we're slap bang in the middle of the table. Is that fair to say still?
Yeah, no. That's fair completely. I'd say that I don't know. We're still waiting for things to click, aren't we?
Yeah.
But there's only so long you can wait before you just have to start thinking, is it going to happen at all? Which is I don't know what that game is, because 10 games would have been a good marker. Now we're probably already looking at 15, 20 games and we're saying I don't know what that point is where it becomes a bit of panic if it still hasn't clicked by then, because it's not far away. I was obviously tonight aside, we spoke about how bad it was. The last 3 home performances before that were all really good.
Yeah,
obviously away form we struggled about that. In moments, it's been there. What we need, what we want to see. We saw it against Sheffield United. Obviously, we saw it against Norwich. There's been some good moments and some good games that we shouldn't forget about just because tonight was so poor. But the issue is it does feel like we're pretty much alternating between good game, bad game, good game, bad game, and if anything, we're leaning more towards a bad game. There's no sort of consistency there. I mean, like I say, you look at 3 really good home games, and today we've had 4 shots on target against Charlton. I mean, credit to them, they put in the perfect performance, didn't they? They nailed their game plan on the head. Perfect away performance where you absorb the pressure, nick goals on the break. It's literally the dream anybody wants when you go away from home against a top performing team. It's the sort of thing we wanted to see on Friday against Borough. So credit to them for pulling it off. That they do deserve a lot of credit, Charlton. It was a lot of it was a case of Charlton being so good, as well as us being that sort of made us be quite as poor as we were. So, but yeah, it's the lack of consistency, really. I thought, like you said, what Rich was saying earlier in the year, you'd have thought by 10 games in, we'd be hitting that consistency. We saw, 3 or 4 games in, we'll say, yeah, we'll see it after 10 games. Now we're at 10 games, we're sort of like, well, let's see after 15, 20. If we keep pushing that back, it's going to be the end of the season and we're going to be still in the exact same spot.
Yeah, see you at next year, yeah. Richard asked, and you might know this actually of your footballing brain, after defeat against Charlton, he said in our podcast chat, how long do parachute payments last for? Do you actually know the answer to that? I've been joking.
It used to be like 3 years or something, I think.
Right, okay, well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know if it is, because we haven't used them very well this time.
Yeah, true. I was going to end with a sort of preview to the weekend, Rob, with West Brom. Obviously, they're playing Wednesday, so we don't know how they fared against Watford. Don't have to go too far into it. Obviously, there'll be a lot of familiar faces for our back line, and not Alex Palmer anymore, obviously. But Saturday, 12:30, Sky Sports. You'd like to think that's that wouldn't be motivation for a team on the pitch at least, but it's going to be a big game nonetheless with a top side, one of the top sides I think coming in the league coming to Port Road this weekend. Like you'd like to think an occasion, especially after the result as well. I know a lot of them maybe weren't on the pitch for Tuesday night, but it's got to be a kick at the backside and really got to kick on after this game, hasn't it? And give West Brom a good go.
Well, yeah, there's a point to prove, isn't there? You have to go and bounce back. You can't, because obviously Borough wasn't a good game either. You got to remember that. It's not like this has suddenly come out of the blue and disrupted a good run. It has done that at home, but Borough was a pretty shocking game Friday, followed up by this, which has been the real wake up of wow, this is how bad it can be when we're not on it. So you need to go and use whatever the next game is. Doesn't matter that it's an early kickoff. Doesn't matter it's against a good West Brom team. Just after a result like this, you go and attack them. You got to go straight into that next game and go and produce a performance that makes people forget about this one. And that'll be the aim. And obviously, it's going to be tough against West Brom. This is where you'd hope for like when we had the Sheffield United game last time. That we're in a similar situation for that game, and we had a perfect opposition. We don't have a perfect opposition this time, so. It's about going and getting the job done.
Absolutely. At the moment in that game, regardless of them being lesser opposition, we very much took the game by the scruff and really sort of showed our mettle in that game, and hopefully can do the same this Saturday. But that's going to do it for today's show. If you stuck by this far, thank you very much. You're a true Tractor Noise fan and Town fan for looking back on a very, very bleak result. So really do appreciate you sticking along. If you want to give the show a review or head to socials, all that sort of lovely stuff, really do appreciate it. We'll see you next Monday for our recap episode on the West Brom game. For the time being, enjoy the rest of the week and have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next time.